Anna hadn't planned to call the detective. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the fading evening light across the backyard, her phone heavy in her hand. For months now, the feeling had been growing, slow and unbearable, a thick knot she couldn't swallow. Daniel was different. Shorter conversations. Business trips that ran longer. Strange silences over dinner, and that one night, the faint trace of someone else's perfume clinging to his shirt collar. Anna told herself she was imagining it. She told herself it was stress. Work. Marriage. Life. But the lie tasted sour every time she swallowed it. When she found the card, a referral from a friend who spoke in whispers, Anna tucked it away in her purse and promised she would never use it. Until tonight. Her fingers dialed before her mind could catch up. Michael Reed answered after the second ring. His voice was low, steady, giving nothing away. They agreed to meet the next day at a cafe 30 minutes from town. Somewhere nobody would recognize her. Somewhere she could still pretend she wasn't about to destroy her own life. The next morning, Anna wore sunglasses and a hoodie, feeling ridiculous, like a guilty teenager sneaking cigarettes behind the gym. Michael was already there when she arrived. Early 30s, maybe late. Worn leather jacket, jeans, dark eyes that seemed to weigh her without judgment. She slid into the seat across from him and he didn't waste time. "Tell me everything," he said. Anna found herself speaking faster than she meant to. About Daniel's late nights. His locked phone. The coldness that had crept between them like winter seeping under a door. Michael didn't interrupt. He just nodded, now and then jotting something in a small notebook. When she finally stopped, breathless and shaken, he looked at her without pity. "You're not crazy," he said. 3 words. They broke her. Tears blurred her vision and she laughed, embarrassed, fumbling for a napkin. "I just need to know," she whispered. "Either way." Michael's jaw tightened slightly. "I'll find out," he promised. "But be sure. Sometimes knowing is worse." Anna nodded, even though she wasn't sure at all. They set up a plan. Discreet. No calls to her home. Updates only by text, coded. It felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. She left the cafe feeling both lighter and heavier at the same time. That night, Daniel came home late. His hair damp, like he'd showered somewhere else. He kissed her forehead, not her mouth, and muttered something about meetings running long. Anna smiled and nodded and tucked their children into bed, pretending she was fine. Pretending she wasn't picturing him with someone else. Pretending she hadn't just declared war on her own marriage. She lay awake in bed long after Daniel's breathing deepened into sleep. Her phone buzzed just after midnight. A message from a blocked number. Her heart stuttered in her chest as she opened it. It was a single word from Michael. Tomorrow. Nothing more. No details. No hint of what was coming. Anna stared into the darkness, feeling the walls of her life shifting, trembling under invisible weight. She knew whatever tomorrow brought, there was no going back. Anna barely slept. Morning arrived, gray and heavy, pressing against the windows like a warning. She dressed mechanically, made breakfast for the kids, smiled at Daniel like everything was fine. He barely looked at her as he grabbed his coffee and disappeared through the front door with a distracted kiss to the top of her head. Anna watched the taillights of his car vanish down the street and only then allowed herself to breathe. Her phone buzzed again. Michael. An address. A time. Noon. Her stomach twisted into knots as she set out, her hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel. The address led her to a quiet street lined with small professional offices, dentists, therapists, realtors. Michael was waiting by a nondescript building, arms crossed over his chest. When Anna pulled up, he gave a single nod and motioned for her to follow. Inside was a small private office, empty except for a desk, 2 chairs, and a manila envelope sitting in the center. No greetings. No wasted words. Michael gestured to the envelope. "You should see this." Anna sat down slowly, heart pounding in her ears, and opened it. Photographs slid into her lap. Daniel. Her Daniel. Smiling at another woman. Holding her hand across a small table at a wine bar downtown. Her face was partially turned away, but the way she leaned into him, the easy familiarity, it was obvious. Too obvious. Anna stared, trying to find excuses. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it was an old friend. Maybe. Michael's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. They meet often. Different places. They're careful. No hotels yet, but... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Anna's fingers trembled over the glossy surface of the photos. "How long has she croaked?" Michael hesitated, the first crack in his careful professional shell. "At least 3 months. Probably longer." Anna felt something sharp and cold slice through her chest. 3 months. All the little lies, the missed calls, the empty smiles. They lined up too neatly now. She clenched her jaw, fighting back the tears burning behind her eyes. She would not fall apart. Not here. Not yet. Michael sat down across from her, voice softer now. I can dig deeper. Find out who she is. Find out if there's more. Anna nodded, unable to speak. She should feel hatred toward Daniel. She should feel anger. But sitting across from Michael, all she felt was an aching loneliness, so thick it threatened to choke her. She had never been the woman who fell apart. Never been the woman who needed saving. Until now. She stuffed the photos back into the envelope and pushed it across the table. Find out everything, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Michael nodded. Their fingers brushed as he took the envelope, and the touch sent a jolt straight through her. Anna snatched her hand back as if burned. She left the office without another word, stepping into the blinding afternoon sun, feeling raw and exposed. As she pulled out of the parking lot, her phone buzzed again. Another text from Michael. Tonight, 9 p.m. Follow the address. No explanation. No hint at what she was walking into. Anna stared at the message, her whole body trembling. Did she really want to know? Was there any part of her that still believed Daniel could be innocent? She drove home on autopilot, every minute dragging, stretching, suffocating. She helped the kids with homework, made dinner, laughed at the right moments, but her mind wasn't there. It was already racing toward 9 o'clock, toward whatever truth waited at the end of that address. At 8:45, Anna slipped out the door, heart pounding, telling Daniel she was going to the store for milk. He barely grunted in response, already lost in his laptop. She drove in silence, the city blurring past her. The address Michael had sent was a small boutique hotel she recognized but had never been inside. She parked half a block away, her palms slick with sweat. The front lobby was empty, the clerk behind the desk barely looking up as she entered. A text popped up on her phone. Second floor, room 212. Anna climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing too loudly. Room 212 stood at the end of the hallway, the door slightly ajar. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she pushed it open. What she saw inside knocked the air out of her chest. Daniel wasn't alone. Anna stood frozen in the doorway, unable to breathe. Daniel was there, sitting on the edge of the bed, his head bowed low, his hands clutching his phone. Across from him, a woman she had never seen before leaned against the window, her arms crossed, her body language casual in a way that twisted Anna's stomach. They hadn't noticed her yet. She had time to run, to leave and pretend she had never seen any of it. But her feet refused to move. The woman spoke first, her voice light and mocking. Still no courage to tell her, huh? Daniel's head jerked up, his face pale, tired. It's not that simple, he muttered. The woman laughed, a sound that sent shivers crawling down Anna's spine. You promised me, Dan. Weeks ago. Anna's vision blurred with rage, confusion, heartbreak. She pushed the door fully open, and it hit the wall with a bang. Daniel's head whipped toward her, and the blood drained from his face. Anna, he stammered, half standing, as if he could somehow fix this. What are you doing here? Anna's laugh was sharp, bitter. Funny, she said. I was about to ask you the same thing. The woman by the window smirked, unbothered. She pushed off the frame and sauntered closer. I guess the secret's out now, she said coolly. Daniel tried to step toward Anna, but she held up a trembling hand. Don't, she said, her voice shaking with fury. Don't you dare. He stopped mid-step, his hands falling uselessly to his sides. It's not what it looks like, he began, the oldest, laziest lie in the book. Anna wanted to scream, wanted to break something. Instead, she turned on her heel and walked out. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stay. Tears blurred her vision as she stumbled down the stairwell, bursting out into the cool night air. She didn't make it far. Michael was there, waiting, leaning against his car like he had known she would run. One look at her face and he straightened. No words were needed. Anna crossed the sidewalk and collapsed against him, fists clutching his jacket, gasping for breath like she was drowning. Michael held her, not speaking, Not moving. Just being there, solid and real when her entire world had just shattered into dust. Minutes, maybe hours later, when she could finally breathe again, Anna pulled back. Her cheeks were wet. Her hands were trembling. She hated that Daniel had reduced her to this. Hated that she needed someone to hold her up. Michael touched her chin, tilting her face up to meet his eyes. "You deserve better," he said, voice rough with emotion. "You still do." Anna shook her head. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she whispered. Michael's hand slid from her chin to her cheek, warm and steady. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "You're standing here. That counts for something." Anna stared up at him, searching for any sign that he was lying, that he was just another man who would use and discard her. But all she found was patience. Kindness. Something dangerous stirred inside her. Something she had buried long ago. Without thinking, without planning, Anna surged upward and kissed him. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't careful. It was messy, desperate, full of grief and anger and years of loneliness clawing their way to the surface. Michael stiffened for half a second, then he kissed her back. The world tilted. Her heart pounded. And for one dizzying moment, Anna forgot everything. Her husband. Her marriage. Her broken life. There was only the heat of Michael's hands at her waist, the press of his body against hers, the wild thrum of blood in her ears. A sharp knock on the car window shattered the moment. Anna jerked away, heart hammering, and turned to see Daniel standing there. His face twisted in rage. And in his hand he held a camera. The flash of the camera felt louder than a gunshot. Anna stumbled backward, her heart slamming against her ribs. Michael stepped protectively in front of her without thinking, his posture stiff, ready. Daniel lowered the camera slowly, his face a portrait of betrayal twisted into something almost unrecognizable. "So this is what you've been doing?" he spat, his voice low and dangerous. "While you were playing the perfect little victim?" Anna opened her mouth, but no words came out. What could she say? That she hadn't planned this? That it hadn't meant anything? Because in that moment, with Michael's warmth still clinging to her skin, Anna wasn't sure that was true. Michael's voice cut through the thick silence. "You have no right," he said coldly. "After what you've been doing to her." Daniel's eyes flicked to him, full of contempt. "Oh, I see. The hired help falls for the client. How romantic." Michael took a step forward, but Anna grabbed his arm, stopping him. "Don't," she whispered. She could feel him vibrating with barely contained fury. Daniel shook his head slowly, disgust curling his lip. "You think this fixes anything?" he sneered. "You think this makes you the good guy?" Anna forced herself to meet his eyes. "No," she said quietly. "It makes me someone who finally woke up." For a moment, the three of them stood locked in a terrible stalemate, frozen by years of resentment and love curdling into something poisonous. Then Daniel turned without another word, storming back to his car and peeling away from the curb with a squeal of tires. The night swallowed him whole. Anna sagged against Michael, every muscle trembling. "I ruined everything," she whispered, not sure if she meant her marriage or herself. Michael cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "No," he said fiercely. "He ruined everything. You just survived." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But guilt gnawed at her, relentless and cruel. She pulled away from him, needing space, needing air. "I need to think," she said. Michael's face shuddered, pain flashing briefly before he masked it. "I'll be around," he said simply. No accusations. No demands. Just quiet understanding. Anna drove through the empty streets aimlessly, tears streaming down her face. Memories flooded her, the first time Daniel said he loved her, the night he proposed under a canopy of fairy lights, the day their daughter was born. Were all those moments lies too? Was anything real? By the time she pulled into her driveway, dawn was threatening the horizon. She sat in the car, watching the house, the home they had built together. The porch light Daniel always left on for her was dark. Anna understood the message. Inside, the silence was deafening. The kids' backpacks lay abandoned by the door, a pair of tiny sneakers overturned on the rug. Normal life mocking her. She stumbled upstairs, half hoping Daniel would be waiting, demanding an explanation, ready to fight. But his side of the closet was already empty. His toothbrush gone. A gaping void where his things had been. Anna sank onto the bed, numb. She had thought she had time. She had thought there would be choices. Now it seemed the decision had already been made for her. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, startling her. A message from an unknown number. "You're not the only one who made mistakes. Meet me. 1 hour. Park by the lake." Anna's hands shook as she read it again. Daniel. It had to be. Maybe he wanted closure. Maybe he wanted revenge. Maybe he wanted. She didn't know. But she had to find out. She grabbed her keys and headed for the door, unaware that someone else was already following her. Anna gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white, the cool air of the early morning doing nothing to calm the fire in her chest. The lake wasn't far, a small, secluded spot tucked behind a nature preserve where they used to take the kids for picnics. 100 memories buzzed in her mind like hornets. She shouldn't be going. She knew that. But her foot pressed the gas pedal harder anyway, as if her body had decided without her permission. Maybe it was closure she wanted. Maybe it was punishment. Maybe some small, broken part of her still needed Daniel to look her in the eye and say the truth out loud. The sky was pale pink by the time she pulled into the gravel lot by the water. Daniel's car was already there, parked crookedly under the shadow of an old oak. Anna killed her engine and sat for a long moment, heart hammering, before stepping out. The world felt too quiet. Daniel was leaning against the hood of his car, arms crossed, face unreadable in the dim light. For a second, Anna hesitated. Something was wrong. There was no anger radiating off him, no shouting, no wild accusations. He just stood there, still and cold as a statue. She took a few cautious steps forward. "You wanted to meet," she said, her voice sounding small even to her own ears. Daniel didn't move. "You humiliated me," he said finally, voice flat. "In public. With him." Anna opened her mouth, but he cut her off with a sharp wave of his hand. "Don't bother," he said. "I know everything." She swallowed hard, the guilt rising up again like bile. "You think I wanted this?" she said. "You think I woke up one morning and decided to destroy everything?" Daniel laughed, low and bitter. "You think you're the victim? You're just like me, Anna. Only difference is I was smart enough not to get caught." The words hit like a slap. Anna reeled back, stunned. "How long?" she whispered. Daniel smiled, a horrible, hollow thing. "Years," he said. "Different women. Different cities. You were too busy playing perfect wife to notice." Anna's knees nearly buckled. She had suspected, yes. Feared. But hearing it said aloud tore something vital from her chest. She wanted to scream, to hit him, to tear this whole rotten thing down. Instead, she stood there, frozen, as Daniel pushed off the car and walked toward her. "You know what the funny part is," he said, leaning in so close she could feel his breath. "You're still wearing your wedding ring. Like you think any of it still matters." Anna yanked her hand away instinctively, shoving him back a step. "Stay away from me," she hissed. But Daniel only smiled wider. "Oh, I'm done," he said. "You're not my problem anymore." He tossed something at her feet, a folded set of papers, and walked away without another word. Anna bent down slowly, heart hammering, and picked them up. Divorce papers. Already filed. Already signed. The ground tilted beneath her feet. It was over. Really, finally over. She stood there long after Daniel's car disappeared down the road, the divorce papers crumpling in her trembling hands. Behind her, a twig snapped. Anna turned sharply, but no one was there. The woods beyond the parking lot rustled softly in the wind, shadows shifting. Probably just a squirrel, she told herself. Or a deer. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another message. "Be careful who you trust." Anna's blood turned to ice. Anna stared at the message, her hands trembling so violently she almost dropped the phone. "Be careful who you trust." The words throbbed in her mind, louder than her racing heart. She turned in a slow circle, scanning the empty parking lot, the dark slither of woods, the faint shimmer of the lake. Nothing. No one. Just the gnawing certainty that her life was no longer just breaking apart, it was being watched. Manipulated. She climbed into her car, locking the doors with shaking fingers. She should call someone. Michael. But for the first time since meeting him, doubt slithered into her gut. He had found her husband's secrets so easily. He had been there every time she needed him. Too perfectly. Too quickly. What if this hadn't been about helping her? What if she was just another case, another woman broken open for someone else's gain? Tears blurred her vision as she drove aimlessly, the sky brightening into a cruel, indifferent morning. She couldn't go home. Home wasn't safe anymore. Nothing was. She pulled into a gas station, cutting the engine, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned bone white. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Michael. "Where are you? Are you okay?" Anna stared at the screen, heart battling her instincts. Part of her wanted to run to him, to collapse into his arms and let him fix everything. The other part, the part still fighting to survive, whispered a warning. She typed back carefully. "I need time. Alone." Seconds later, her phone rang. Michael's name flashing. She hesitated, then silenced it. She needed to think. Needed to breathe. For hours she sat there, watching the world move around her. Mothers wrangling kids into minivans. Businessmen rushing with coffee cups. Normal life spinning on while hers lay shattered at her feet. And somewhere in that stillness, the answer came. She didn't need Daniel. She didn't need Michael. She didn't need anyone to tell her who she was anymore. Anna drove to her lawyer's office, signed the papers Daniel had thrown at her, filed her own amendments, made sure custody and finances were settled on her terms. No screaming matches. No dragged-out wars. Just clean cuts. Then she booked a hotel for herself and the kids. Somewhere small, cozy, temporary until she figured out the next step. It wasn't until 2 days later that Michael found her. He showed up at the hotel's parking lot just as she was wrangling her daughter's backpack out of the trunk. Anna stiffened as she saw him. He looked tired, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept since the last time they spoke. "I'm not here to pressure you," he said immediately, holding his hands up. "I just needed to know you were okay." Anna studied him carefully. The man who had seen her darkest, weakest moments. The man who had kissed her like she was something precious. "Who sent the messages?" she asked quietly. Michael frowned. "What messages?" She searched his face for a lie, but found only confusion and worry. Maybe he wasn't perfect. Maybe he was broken in ways she hadn't seen yet. But in that moment, Anna knew. Whatever future she chose, it had to be hers. Not out of loneliness. Not out of fear. "I need time," she said again, softer this time. Michael nodded slowly. "I'll wait," he said. "As long as you need." And for once, Anna believed him. She watched as he turned and walked back to his car, giving her the space she had fought so hard to reclaim. Anna stood there in the cold morning air, the weight of the past sliding off her shoulders like an old coat. She had lost everything she thought she couldn't live without. And yet, standing there, free, trembling but upright, she realized she had everything she needed. Herself. Her children. A future she hadn't dared to imagine. And as she hugged her daughter close and led her into the small hotel lobby, Anna knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning.